Is the climate cult losing? A new poll shows it might be. People have climate change fatigue. You know, people telling us that we have to no longer eat beef. We need to get rid of all the cows because the farting is going to ruin the environment. People are tired of hearing about not being able to fly on planes, but people like AOC and Bernie Sanders flying on private jets and being hypocrites. They're tired of rainforests and Amazon trees getting cut down for a climate conference. Like they're tired of the hypocrisy. They know that the elites that's pushing this is full of crap. And they don't even want to pay a single dollar a month to fight so-called climate change. So we're going to talk about it. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button. Share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. There's a link to my Patreon. That's where I talk about things that I can't talk about here. There's also a link to my Instagram and my X account, so follow me there as well. All right, so let's get into this news. Now, this comes from the Daily Wire, and they report that the vast majority of Americans are no longer willing to pay $1 monthly fee to supposedly help combat climate change, signaling a major shift in attitude from just years ago. I mean, how many times they keep telling us, oh, the world is going to end in 12 years if you don't give Al Gore this money. 12 years passed, nothing happened. Oh, they kept kicking the can down the road. Oh, another 10 years, another 5 years. And they keep kicking it and saying this doom and gloom stuff, and absolutely nothing has been happening. Things aren't getting worse like they predicted. All the predictions went out the window, and they're still asking us to pay these so-called carbon taxes and stuff like that, and eat the bugs to save the planet. But a poll released on Thursday from the Associated Press, NORC Center for Public Affairs Research, and the Energy Policy Institute at the University of Chicago found that only 38% of Americans are on board with paying $1 monthly carbon fee. 38%. I still think that number's kind of high. Back in 2021, 52% of Americans were willing to pay the supposed climate fighting fee. Unsurprisingly, as the hypothetical fee goes up from $1 monthly to $10 or $20, only 3 in 10 Americans are okay with paying up. Only 2 in 10 said they would pay $75 or $100 monthly. Climate activism has become a key issue for Democrats in recent years. High-profile politicians like Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, for example, famously said back in 2019 that the world would end in 12 years if we don't drastically address climate change. Let's hear what she has to say about that. Here we go.
Millennials and people and Gen Z and all these folks that come after us are looking up, and we're like, the world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change. And your biggest issue is how are we going to pay for it?
Crazy. And she says, and now she's flying around on private jets and stuff like that to so-called fight the oligarchy, but don't want you to fly. These people are hypocrites. They don't believe their own hype. But failed 2024 Democrat presidential candidate Kamala Harris was also a climate alarmist, calling climate change an existential threat and releasing a $10 trillion climate plan during her 2019 presidential run. That's back in 2019, not the most recent one. $10 trillion with a T. While an increasing number of young Americans now believe that climate change is mostly man-made, Americans in general are just not okay with personally paying any tax or fee to help combat the apparent threat. They are, however, willing to shift payment to energy companies, according to the AP NORC Epic poll. But they don't tell you if that happens, then the people still going to end up paying in the long run, because the prices of doing business is going to go up. Also, oil companies are going to charge more. I mean, that's common sense. Quote, while less than half of Americans support paying a monthly carbon fee on their energy use, 56% support taxing companies for the carbon they emit, a press release outlined. About 6 in 10 Americans say oil and gas companies, 62% the federal government, 60%, and large businesses and corporations, 58%, bear a great deal or a lot of responsibility. By contrast, 31% say the same about individuals, a drop of 19 percentage points from 50% in 2019, the poll found. Old school environmental activism like protecting conservation lands, which I believe in, and wildlife, which I believe in as well, was, however, supported by a vast majority of Americans at 70%, rightfully so. I'm not anti-environment. You know, I believe in taking care of our environment. I mean, the Bible talks about that, taking care of the animals and the environment and stuff like that. So I'm all for that. But taxing people for carbon, which we all are carbon-based forms, we all emit carbon, we all emit CO2 out into the atmosphere. And in fact, that the CO2 is the reason why I talked about this many, many times. I forgot what the opposite of deforestation is called. Reforestation, I think, is what they call it, where forests, green is starting to grow, in plants and stuff are starting to grow in the desert now. It's crazy at record rates. And so the abundance of CO2 is actually good for plants, which makes it better for us to grow more vegetables, more products and stuff like that. We can grow because of the green that's happening. So they're selling it as a bad thing, where actually high CO2 is possibly a good thing. And I talked about this before. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this on this platform, but there were studies that's come out to show that CO2, and there is some type of correlation between CO2 and temperature, but the temperature precedes the CO2. The high temperatures come first, then the CO2 rises. So if that's the case, then the temperature is what's causing the abundance of CO2 in the atmosphere. And again, a lot of scientists believe that that's not necessarily a bad thing. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this. Leave y'all comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe, and check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.